Council meeting. My name is Eileen Saunders, and I am the Waiver Innovation Unit Supervisor here with the Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing. Okay. Our mission at HCPF is to improve healthcare equity, access, and outcomes for the people we serve while saving Coloradans money on healthcare and driving value for Colorado. So today's meeting, we're going to go over just some housekeeping as always, and then talk about how our transition year has officially ended as of today, which is exciting. It's kind of fun how the meeting schedule lined up for today. So that's exciting. And then we'll do a brief update on our sustainability initiatives that impact CFC specifically. A note about some website updates that are underway, and then a brief kind of update about our wellness education benefit and our CFC council meeting schedule ongoing. Okay. As always, please do not share any protected health information. We do record these meetings, and this meeting is being recorded now. So if any protected health information is shared, it prohibits us from putting up the recordings of these meetings online where people can view them at their own convenience. So please refrain from just sharing any personal information or health information during this meeting. And if you need any accommodations, such as translation services or closed captioning, please outreach the Civil Rights Officer at HCPF. Their email is hcpf504ada@state.co.us. And we ask for at least 1 week prior to the meeting to help coordinate any arrangements that you may need. Okay. For those of you who are new to this meeting or new to Community First Choice in general, I'll just give a brief overview of the program. Community First Choice, or CFC for short, is a state plan program that is optional, and it allows states who decide to implement the program to move a certain set of HCBS home and community-based services waiver program services from those waivers to Community First Choice, where they are available under the state plan. You see my camera is getting a little funky, so I'm just going to go off camera for a minute and see if that helps. Been having some internet issues the last couple of days, so I apologize. Yes, the Community First Choice program allows us to move waiver services onto the state plan where they live in the Community First Choice program and where they are accessible to members regardless of their waiver program. So if members meet an institutional level of care and they are eligible for Medicaid or a waiver program, they can receive the services on the left-hand side of this screen, regardless of the waiver program that they're in. So historically, we've had the services on the left-hand side of this screen kind of available in various different waiver programs. Now that they've moved to CFC, members can access those services regardless of the waiver that they're on, which is very exciting. So those services are homemaker, personal care, health maintenance activities, remote supports, home delivered meals, transition setup, personal emergency response system and medication reminders, and then our 2 participant directed service delivery models in Colorado, in-home support services and consumer directed attendant support services. Alrighty, so as of today, we have officially made it to 1 full year of Community First Choice. Last year at the state, we implemented the program and started our transition year. So all HCBS members who have been using the CFC services that have moved over to the program from the waivers are now officially enrolled in CFC and using those services under the new program. So as you recall, the members could transition to CFC at their time of continued stay review throughout the year. And as of today, all of those are complete, which is great. So we have at least 36,000 members in CFC. That number is probably higher as of today. It takes a little while, a couple weeks to a month, for all of our data to really come in to give us an accurate count, but we know we at least have 36,000 members enrolled in CFC, and almost 1,500 of them are CFC only members. And then we have close to 2,000 children's home and community-based services waiver members who have transitioned to the new Children with Complex Health Needs waiver. On July 1st of last year, the Children's Life-Limiting Illness waiver and the Children with Home and Community-Based Services waiver merged to create the new Children with Complex Health Needs waiver. And the children on the CHCBS waiver were transitioning throughout the year, similar to CFC, onto the new CWCHN waiver for short. So as of today, all of those transitions should be complete as well. Okay, so as we close out this year, we really want to take a moment to say thank you to all of you for your participation in this council. We know it's been several years. I think our council started in 2022. So we really appreciate your attendance and your commitment to these meetings, all of your feedback, your shared experiences. Everything that you've provided has helped to build this program, and we really could not have done it without you. So we really appreciate your participation and your collaboration for building Community First Choice. And we're so excited that we've completed our first year. So yeah, thank you again. And I'll talk more about what these meetings will look like at the end of this presentation, but we're just really thankful that you've been here with us throughout the journey. Okay, with that, I'll get into some updates for the sustainability initiatives that impact CFC specifically. So the weekly caregiver cap, or the 56-hour caregiver cap, has started today on July 1st. So this is separate from our other sustainability initiatives that were launched on April 1st, which include the soft caps for personal care, homemaker, and health maintenance, and then our legally responsible persons homemaker limit reduction from 10 hours to 7 hours. Those launched on April 1st, but our weekly caregiver cap has launched today. So today, the first phase of the implementation is starting. This sustainability initiative has 3 implementation phases to help caregivers come into compliance throughout the year with the 56-hour limit. So today is the first phase, which will focus on caregivers who provide more than 84 hours of care per week. And come January 1st of 2027, that limit will reduce to 70 hours. And then finally on July 1st of next year, all caregivers will come into compliance with the 56-hour limit. So today starts the first phase of the implementation. As a reminder, there is an exception process for this initiative that will be managed by the department. So we recognize that there are situations that require members to have an exception for this limit, specifically when members have complex or extraordinary care needs, where members might be living in areas where there are workforce shortages or challenges finding any additional caregivers. if members are experiencing transitions or periods of stabilization, and then of course if members are experiencing and need end-of-life care needs. So exceptions can be submitted starting today for those circumstances by provider agencies and CDOS employers. More information and more details about the exceptions process can be found in our regulations or in our memo. There's a lot of detail in those documents and those resources, so we encourage you to look at those for the details surrounding the exceptions process. As another reminder, this initiative does not reduce authorized service hours for members. It is specifically a caregiver cap. So, you know, the provider agency or the CDOS employer is ultimately responsible in certain situations that may come up for recruiting additional caregivers to meet the members' needs. If those hours for the caregiver are above the weekly cap. And so the exceptions process is, you know, in place for the situations, as I mentioned, where members might require care arrangements and transitions that might take a little bit longer to come into compliance. Okay, if you are having any service hours reduced and you're unsure why and have questions about that, it could be a change in need that is that requires the service hours to be reduced, or another policy change such as the soft caps and the LRP homemaker limit reduction. So if you have questions want to kind of understand more about what it might be happening, please reach out to your case manager. And if you still have questions about your service hours, you can always contact the department through the member complaint and escalations process. Okay, and then last, we do have a weekly caregiver cap fact sheet, which we can put in the chat. This fact sheet is a great resource that goes over kind of the high points of the sustainability initiative, and then also links to other resources. So please use this as a quick resource if you have questions. And then again, the regulations and the memo have more detail about the exceptions process. And if you have questions about the other long-term services and support sustainability initiatives, the LTSS sustainability webpage is a great place to go to look for information about all of the initiatives. Okay. I'll just take a moment here to check in if there are any questions in the chat or any questions that I may have missed. Lana, is there anything you'd like me to answer that?
Hey, Eileen, there are a couple questions in the chat. I see that the subject matter experts are drafting responses now, so I think it might be best if we just go ahead and put those in the chat once we have a response to those, just to make sure that we have all the best information for you all, if that works.
Perfect. That sounds great. Okay, so for our website, as we finish out the transition year, we will be taking stock of all of our website pages that mention our transition year for CFC and our waivers. So we'll be updating those to make sure that they reflect the current state of CFC and our waiver programs. So you might be noticing over the next couple of weeks, some of our website pages will have some updates. So just a flag that is coming soon. And then just a quick update on our wellness education benefit. The web for short is now serving 47,000 members, waiver members, which is really exciting. So most waiver members are using the service, which is great. We love the web, so we're excited that it's getting into the homes of so many members. And we're hoping to get your feedback with any top topics you might want to see. We have a form that we'll put into the chat here as well that you can fill out and make suggestions on article topics that you would like to see come your way through the web. So our team will take that back and see if we can get that targeted information out to you. But yeah, we're just really excited that the web is going out, and just want to make a plug for any feedback and article ideas if you have them. And if you have any questions about the wellness education benefit, it does have its own website now. So feel free to visit the web page, and you can learn more that way. Okay. That is really all that we had today. Before we get into open forum, I'll just kind of jump quickly to the council meeting schedule update, and then we can pivot back to open forum, just because this is the last piece that I had. As of today, we are going to transition to having these council meetings quarterly. So our next CFC council meeting will be Wednesday, October 7th. We have, now that the program has launched and our transition year is complete, we still want to have these council meetings, but have them be focused more on, providing updates around operations and any adjustments that might need to happen. But because the program is built and the council was, essentially for the planning at its core, for the planning and development of the program, we think that a quarterly schedule is more appropriate given, the big lift, if you will, is complete. So we'll focus more on operational updates, and any other changes that impact CFC will certainly make those announcements and get feedback from you all during those quarterly meetings, just as we would normally. So, okay, with that, I'll pivot back to open forum and can take any questions. And I see Impacted Caregivers of Colorado. I see you have your hand up, so go ahead. And if you are,
trying to see.
Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. As of yesterday, we are already hearing that are telling them that 4 hours for no matter how many members instead of per caregiver per member. I've been told that 2 families yesterday that were automatically dropped to 84 hours, even in a child's care. And then they're asking me where they're supposed to go, they're supposed to at, because they have asked for a supervisor and are told they don't need a supervisor. These decisions come from HIC. So what would you suggest to do?
I'm so sorry. I'm gonna ship it.
Or doing that.
I apologize. It is you were breaking up pretty significantly during that, so I'm so sorry. I was not really able to.
Is that better? I stepped outside.
Yes, let's give it a go.
Okay, sorry. I'm at soccer camp, so I apologize. So families already yesterday in Impacted are letting me know that their CMs are telling them that it's 84 hours per caregiver, not per caregiver per member. One family has already had their hours for their child dropped to 84 hours, even though HICPUF has said that doesn't affect the client's hours of service. And then the family that was arguing about the 84 hours said they, talked to the CM. Then they asked to speak to a supervisor, and they were told they don't need to be speaking to a supervisor because HCPF is the one that made this decision. So what do you suggest for advocates to do when CMs from particular CM agencies say these things to the families? Are they supposed to contact you, Family Voices? How do we mitigate this? Because it's already happening.
Thank you for that feedback. In those circumstances, we recommend utilizing the escalations and grievance form so we can collect that specific case information and kind of go from there. Alrighty, any other questions? Yeah, Jenna, go ahead. Jenna, you're speaking.
Hi,
Oh.
are you able to hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, it just took me a minute to get my microphone off. I have a question about providing CFC services in shared living spaces. So if a person in services lives in the family home and, for example, makes a mess in the living room, which is shared with other people, or the kitchen, which is shared with other people, is it okay for the CFC provider to bill for cleaning that space that the person in services made a mess in?
For that specific question, I might tap in one of our benefits team. I don't know, Danny, if you're on, if you have any insight into just being able to clear up the shared living space piece for Homemaker.
Yeah, hi, this is Danny from HCPF. And I was going to try to do camera. I think Google Meet is just rejecting everybody's camera this week. So apologies. I'm going to go off camera. I want to make sure that I heard the question correctly, but the question was, how does Homemaker work when there's shared living spaces? However, the member made a mess in that specific space and needs the Homemaker service. Is that what I heard you ask, Jenna?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So that's a great question. When it is a shared space, typically Homemaker wouldn't be allowed because, that somebody else is sharing the space and they would need to clean that. However, your point about if the member, needs that support individually because of, it's the mess that they created, or it's, additional support needs based on their specific disability, then Homemaker can be allowed in shared spaces, but it has to be specifically for the member's benefit. So just an example would be if two people are living in a home, they share the bathroom, let's say, the Homemaker can't go in and just clean the bathroom for both individuals living in the house. Now, what would be allowed is the member shares the bathroom. They use the bathroom and it is messy, and then the Homemaker provider would be able to provide services to clean the bathroom for the member because of the member. Does that?
Right.
Okay.
So like right after the member takes a shower, they would be able to clean up the bathroom after that, but they can't just go in there once a week and clean the bathroom for the family or for the person in services.
Correct. And
Right.
I think another example would be like if the member has incontinence and maybe there's some buildup in the space, a Homemaker provider could go in and clean that up, once a week, because again, it's a result of the member's disability or it's to support the member.
Okay. So for dishes in the sink, right? They can't do everybody's dishes, but if the member puts their dishes in the sink, the provider can go in and clean those dishes. Is that correct?
Yes, Jenna, and that's probably a better example and the one that I
Right.
should have led with. 'Cause
No, you're getting great examples because I've got all these questions. Somebody on the chat just asked, how about shared meals? And that was my next question. Does the provider have to go shopping for the person in services independently? Or can they shop for their meals or make their meals and then bill for a portion of that time if the meal is for the entire family?
Ooh, that's a good question. So the caregiver should be shopping for the member solely. So they should not be buying any like joint groceries or things of that nature. When they're preparing meals, they should also be preparing the meals specifically for the member. Now, obviously, we can't control if somebody else in the house eats the member's leftovers or tags on. However, the meal preparation should be specifically for the member and should not be for joint meals.
Okay. And same for shopping trips.
Yes.
Okay. And so if the contact notes clearly reflect that this service is being provided for the person in services only, that should be okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good questions.
Thank you so much, Danny, for helping with those.
Yeah, thank you.
Megan, go ahead.
We're seeing more issues, right? Like amazing CFC expanded things that were previously only available for adults to kids too, which is awesome. We love that. And we're seeing more and more inconsistency with how school or things like ABA or those pieces are addressed when doing the direct care calculator and evaluating for CFC services. So in some cases, case managers are saying, if they're at school during that time, most of the year, then you never get any time, or we're not evaluating based on their needs when they're at school, which would make sense if people were at school 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, the entire time, but that's not quite how it works in the real world. And then in other situations, case managers are evaluating for their, 24-hour needs, regardless of where they are during those needs. And then it's up to the home health agencies to say, well, we evaluated for lunch. That's what some of these hours are for. They were at school during lunch, so you need to miss that visit for during that lunchtime or underutilized because they were not with you and not receiving CFC services during that lunchtime. So that's to say, we're seeing a wide discrepancy in how that's being implemented because I haven't seen any guidance from the state on how to deal with when kids are at school for significant parts of time. And that's been really, really challenging because, a kid might be sick 3 days a week. And so just the amount of time kids are in school, or if they're homeschooled, how should that be addressed? So all those different pieces is not anywhere. And so it's become really inequitable in how it's being addressed.
Thank you, Megan, for bringing that up. Yes, this is a complicated one. I think that Danny also has some insight into this issue more than I do. So I'll go ahead and kick it to Danny to weigh in on this.
Thank you, Eileen. Megan, glad you brought this up because yes, this is super complicated and definitely something that we've been hearing, especially over the past year now that CFC is, fully implemented. I think our best approach though for this is that we need to do some policy work and policy development specifically within the participant directed programs. And so I'm thinking that the best option would be to provide a recommendation to our policy collaborative co-chairs to help get maybe a work group started so we can talk about how policy might need to be better developed to address the specific needs of kids. I think you have our co-chair contact information, but if not, I'm happy to put it in the chat because I think that that would be the first starting point. Because I think we just need to do some more work here.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I will do that. I think it's important. I think we need some sort of guidance from the state to get us through the interim until we have some sort of more comprehensive policy. And to me, I think that should be that case managers are evaluating for 24/7 sort of needs regardless of where they are, and then should be underutilized if they're in school for a significant amount of that time until we have a better system in place, just so that there's some consistency, because it's a mess right now, and then hopefully develop. But I assume developing a policy around how we deal with school and ABA and all those things is going to be it's not going to happen tomorrow or a month from now even. It's a longer process. So I think we need something in the interim too.
Yeah, fair. I think some of the general policy that we've given in the past has been case managers should really try to average as best as possible. The way the direct care services calculator, which is the mechanism for those of you who maybe don't know, which is the mechanism to help determine the amount of appropriate hours per week. But the direct care services calculator can be done for different periods in the year. And so case managers can, set different allocations or different service authorizations based on the time of year. And so I think that's a starting place to try to get maybe just some averages to something that's, closer to what's actually used. And then in addition to that, I think we are working on getting some clarification on, with our legal team specifically, with what is allowed and not allowed to be provided, while the individual's at school, and, what's required through school districts versus what's, required to be paid through Medicaid. And so that's another area where we're working on getting some guidance and just some additional clarification that we can share with the larger group.
Yeah, I mean, I have yet to see a single case manager that's made a school year plan and a not school year plan within that. And if they try to average it into one plan, that doesn't actually that for CDOS that might work, but that doesn't work for anything else because of how you actually have to chart and document for things and how they're given weekly, not annually, as far as care plans are developed. But I could go on and on about this, and there's other hands up, so I'll shut up now.
Fair. And I'll just finish to say to you, Megan, these are great points. Definitely appreciate all the insight that you bring to this group. And we'll definitely take this back and just keep evaluating how we can improve the process for kiddos.
Great. Thank you both for that conversation. I look forward to collaborating as well. Okay, I see Impacted Caregivers of Colorado. Your hand is up first. Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Megan actually reminded me of something that was brought up last week. So for single parent households who are a caregiver for a person, they obviously cannot utilize all of the hours that the client may get because of the caregiver caps. And as we have stated before, single parent households are hit a lot harder than dual parent households. And there is a going thought, I'm just going to say a going thought, there's a going thought that if you do not utilize all of the hours that are on the care plan for the year, that when you come up for your next review, you will lose those extra hours. And it was told to me that CMs have been directed that if the care plan is not utilizing all the hours, at the next review, you take off the extra hours. However, if a single parent household is capped at certain hours, but the client has more hours, but they have not had time or the ability to find a backup caregiver yet, but their goal is to find a backup caregiver for the extra hours, is that true that they will lose those hours that they have not utilized at the next review, or do those hours stay as long as the client continues to need them?
Thank you for that question. So that is not true. The hours will stay on the members' person-centered service plan or their PAR until if they still need them. So that the policy does not include removing those hours. So I hope that helps clear that up.
Can I ask, what suggestion would you give to a family that's being told this then for their next review if they're told that they're to lose the hours they haven't utilized?
I would say we can bring that back to our teams to make sure that we have more clear communication around this policy for that specific fear that families may be experiencing, so that we can make it abundantly clear what is happening. So, we can take that back and make sure that we are putting out more clear guidance to those families. But all told, those families should not be afraid that they're going to lose those hours. And then, Danny, I see you have your hand up. If there's anything else you want to add, go ahead.
Yeah, I do want to just add that our policy very explicitly states that services should not be decreased as a result of the caregiver caps. And so if the member truly needs the services, that authorization should remain in place. And so if there are situations where that's happening, if a member is working with the case management agency and services are being decreased incorrectly or inappropriately, we really need the Denise, I'm gonna mute you, sorry, thank you. We really need the member to submit a grievance form. The only way for us to be able to provide outreach to the case management agencies and provide the technical assistance for specific cases is when we get these grievance forms submitted to us. So we've put the grievance form in the chat. This form's been live for quite a while, so hopefully y'all are pretty familiar with it, but this is the best possible thing you can do if there's something specifically wrong with your case.
Thank you so much, Danny. Okay, Jess, I see you have your hand up next.
Thank you. I just want to piggyback on what Megan was saying really quickly. In my historic experience on the provider side, the reason that we would advocate to have, the 24-hour view year round and not two different time periods is because there would be times during the school year that they are, home from school, Christmas break, spring break, if they're sick. So on the provider side, we historically would request the full amount of hours, and then whether it was the 45 for Class A or in the plan of care on IHSS or something, we would put in, lunchtime visit to be canceled when they're at school or they're at day program, but to be activated if they're ever home. Is that an appropriate approach? Just want to make sure that's getting clarified. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. I think we'll take that one back to make sure that we give you the accurate guidance on that one, if that is okay. And feel free to reach out to us with those details. I think, again, as Danny and mentioned, and I mentioned, there's just a lot of complexity around these specific cases for kids receiving services in school settings and non-school settings throughout the year. So just want to make sure we're providing accurate guidance when we have that.
Okay, thank you. And then I would just add, for me, it's not just kids too. I would say adults too that go to like a day program as well would be my question. But thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Alrighty, I see ILC Colorado. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, is CFC Homemaker able to be provided when the individual is not present?
Great question. Danny, I'll have you confirm because I feel as though I've forgotten this small piece of policy. I believe the answer is no, but go ahead.
I mean, we respond, excuse me, we responded in the chat and it can be provided when an individual is not present. So the response is in there and yes, it can be.
Okay,
Oh,
great.
Great, thank you so much. I didn't see it.
Thanks, Cassie. Okay, any other questions? I'm not seeing any other hands. Daniel, go ahead.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. So just wanted to add on to that question. Let's say that the member is actually in the hospital. At that point, would the homemaker care still be available to them?
If a member has been institutionalized, then we get into kind of trickier territory with our CFC program because CFC and HCBS services in general are not allowed for members who are in institutional settings. And I believe it's at least 30 days of being in a hospital. But again, benefits, please correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, this is Danny from HICPEF. I can just jump in. Good question, Daniel. If a member is in the hospital or in any other institution setting, homemaker is not permitted to be allowed at the same time. So even though the members, even though the caregiver is, trying to do the homemaker for the member, if they are in any institutionalized setting, such as a hospital or a nursing facility, then the tasks cannot be completed on the same day.
Very good. Thank you for the clarification.
Awesome. Thank you, Danny. Megan, go ahead.
I like having extra dead time in a meeting because it gives me the chance to ask all the random things that bug me about the system. So one of the other pieces that we're really struggling with is how the assessed hours, especially for kids, when a portion of a task is included in the DCSE, but not the entirety of the task based on their age, how somebody's actually supposed to chart and document for that. So for example, let's say a 7-year-old could not do laundry entirely on their own. So the DCSE doesn't account for 100% of the time it takes for somebody to do their laundry, but it accounts for maybe 5 minutes of it. Great. That makes sense logically, but how does one actually chart for that in the real world? Because you're not doing the 7-year-old's portion of laundry and then quitting doing laundry altogether and doing the 7-year-old's portion of dishes and then quitting altogether and then doing the 7-year-old's portion of bathroom cleaning and then quitting altogether. Like in the real world, we complete a task, and I get the concept that you wouldn't be reimbursed for completing the entirety of that task, but it doesn't translate into how life functions well. And that's probably a much bigger question than can be answered here, but one that feels worth pointing out.
Thanks, Megan, for that one. And just to clear, well, I guess I see Amanda. You've got your hand up. So if you want to jump in, I was just going to ask a clarifying question, but if you've got it, go ahead.
No, I didn't ask for the clarifying. It might be the same.
Okay. So Megan, are you asking specifically about like how with like at the AIM service built into the DCSE, how that would be incorporated and charted?
Not necessarily AIM, just like for kids, based on the age appropriateness of an activity, it is often part of a specific task is considered typical parental responsibility, and part of that is outside of parental responsibility.
Okay.
So like, how does, we're seeing this a lot, like maybe a kid needs an adult to sit next to them for the entirety of a meal to help manage them eating. And they say, well, a lot of that is typical parental responsibility based on their age, but not all of it. So we'll give you a portion that might be in excess, but not the entirety of the task, which I get, but I can't chart for 5 minutes out of a 30-minute meal. That's not how life functions, because I can't just chart for 5 minutes. I have to chart for at least 15 minutes increments. And then, does that make sense? Like, it's this like part of a task is typical parental responsibility, part is not. So how on earth do you document that?
Yes, thank you for clarifying. That makes a lot more sense. And Amanda, I'll let you jump in.
Thanks, Eileen. Hi, everyone. This is Amanda Smith over at HICPUF, also off camera with internet issues. So I apologize, but Megan, you're bringing up fantastic points and definitely things, I think, kind of tying us back to what Danny was saying is like, yes, this is something we need to develop more. We're quite aware of like how, like you said, how do we make this work for our day-to-day life, especially considering, okay, well, let's do 5 minutes of this task, but charting and billing, we work in 15-minute units. So we are planning to collaborate with Department of Health and Environment, CDPHE, because there are also some of those licensing components for their charting requirements. And so trying to get aligned on both sides of the street there so that we have clear guidance on what to do in that. Unfortunately, I can't give you a timeline on when we'll have that, but I'm very happy that you brought that up here. And generally, I would say just when we're looking at laundry, for instance, like you're great example of like, hey, we have a 5-year-old kiddo, maybe has some laundry needs, let's say for incontinence. Hey, we need help getting this. This is extraordinary care. So it's outside of that parental responsibility due to the frequency of the incontinence issues. In those cases, the time per week may be a little bit more flexible in the sense that we need proper justification and documentation of how long is this task being completed, and what is, like you said, that difficult nuance of, okay, well, what portion of that is parental responsibility versus that extraordinary care component. So I'm happy to take this back and work with CDPHE to get some clear, consistent guidance for you guys for that.
Thanks. I think protective oversight is another one that we see this majorly, especially with the change to protective oversight only being for time intervening. So if you're intervening and it takes you 1 minute, but you have to do it every 15 minutes, you can't clock in and clock out for 1 minute intervention. So then what? So just throwing that in as another factor or another situation we see that commonly in.
That's helpful. I appreciate that. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you both. Okay, Candace, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, my question is also about protective oversight with CFC and adults. I know they're saying that, you know, the max is 7 hours a week, and, you know, there's always an exception. But if that's the cap anyhow, why would someone pursue to try to have more hours? I guess I'm confused on that process. And this is with adults, because I understand with like the children, in order to do that, you have to have like a rights restriction showing that there's extensive protective oversight. But what about the process with adults?
Hi, Candace. Thanks for that. I am going to have to ask sadly, Danny and Amanda again for some help with this one. I'm not very familiar with protective oversight and how it functions.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My ears should have perked up when I heard protective oversight, but I was reading the chat to try to respond to some questions. I'm really sorry, Candace. Would you mind repeating your question?
Yes, my question is with the changes with CFC, protective oversight being part of personal care, there's going to be a cap of 7 hours with adults per week. You know, there's always an exception process. My question is if the cap is at 7 hours a week, why would someone even continue to go through the process of trying to get an exception? Like, or is that set in stone? Or if you can document, you know, the need for more hours, is that a possibility? Like, what is that looking like?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So I can say that since this protective oversight limit has been put in place, we have actually gotten quite a few requests for exceptions to the limit. I don't have the hard data right in front of me, so I can't tell you exactly how many of those have been approved. So maybe Amanda, I don't know if you can find that and we can report back, but exceptions to exceed the 7-hour limit do get approved. I will say if a case manager is going to submit an exception, they need to work with the member to make sure that what they're requesting is actually fitting within the definition of protective oversight. So if there is a situation where specific interventions are needed because the member is at risk of hurting themselves or hurting other people, and a caregiver is providing interventions, we do approve exceptions. And I think, Amanda, you just chatted me to do an example. Amanda, I might actually just kick it to you to do an example. I think you've been kind of looking at some of our exception requests lately, so you probably have some good ones you can share.
Thanks, Danny. Yeah, happy to share an example. And thank you, Candace, for that question. The examples I'm thinking that we see often in our exceptions are for protective oversight during other tasks in personal care, the most common being bathing. So for example, maybe the justification is, hey, this member particularly has behaviors during bathing that results in harm from themselves. Perhaps they're hitting or hurting themselves, changing the temperature, things of that nature. And so in those cases, we recommend for the case manager to allocate the time under that task that is being completed. So for this, we would say, hey, move those protected oversight hours to the bathing task to be captured there, because that is the primary task that is being completed. We're primarily completing bathing rather than just solely protective oversight. So we're seeing that a lot for adults and children, and that would be the most common situation we see. So I hope that answers, Candace, for you.
Yes, thank you. That does give a little more clarity. I guess an example I'd want to throw out is medication reminder. It's ongoing. The individual needs constant verbal prompts, physical prompts, to the point like the medication won't be taken until they're actually given, hand in hand and watching them put it in their mouth. It's not just like a 5-minute task of here's your medication, let's move on. That's kind of like what includes protective oversight. Is that justifiable? That it would be added into something of that nature. The other thing is just aggressive behaviors, needing supervision periodically throughout the day, because, when he or she's out in the community, they exhibit aggressive behaviors, PTSD, TBI, and it has a lot to do with cognitive and not so much physical. So that was my apprehensiveness of, speaking with the case manager and saying, hey, yes, they can physically do A, B, C, and D, but because of cognitive issues, they need more assistance.
Apologies, my computer froze a little bit there, but I did hear what you said. Yes, as far as, let's use that medication reminder example. And so when we look at the definition for protective oversight, like you said, it's really those hands-on interventions, and it also covers verbal prompting. So if this prompting is occurring several times throughout the day because a member is unwilling or not able to take their medication at that time, as long as that is documented by the case manager within the level of care assessment, as well on their DCSC when they're submitting that exception request, that's certainly something that can be considered. It's hard to give you a blanket answer without knowing the specifics for the member, because it is very member specific. So I would definitely encourage you to work with the case manager and really take a look at the definition for protective oversight. We also have a protective oversight guide that may be helpful. If I could ask Danny if you would be able to grab that guide off of the CM tools page, that could be helpful in these situations as well.
Thank you so much, ladies.
You're so welcome.
Thank you both. Okay, with just a few minutes left, I think we'll take one more question and then I'll just show the last couple slides I have, which I believe are our resources page. So Daniel, go ahead.
Really quick question for you. So recently we had a situation where a caregiver was with a client for probably a 3 or 4 hour shift in the morning. And unfortunately that client passed away later on in the evening. Essentially what ended up happening is we did submit for reimbursement for that shift that the caregiver put in, and that was turned down. It was denied. And so I was wondering if that's something where we are not allowed to bill for that day that the client passes, or if that should have been covered.
I'm so sorry to hear about that experience. I don't know the answer to that question. So I guess I'll take, does any of my colleagues know the answer who are on this call?
This is
Okay.
Danny from HICPUF. You should be able to bill for the time that care was rendered. That being said, I know that we do have a few system limits in place. And so if you weren't able to, I would recommend starting with the provider call center and just explaining the situation and see if they can provide you some recommendations. I would need to see if we have anything like published anywhere to refer you to. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head.
Thank you, Danny.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, with that, we will finish last slide here, last couple slides here. So again, just a reminder, our next council meeting will be in October. So you'll see those meetings being updated to quarterly on the OCL calendar, stakeholder calendar. But they'll still be the first Wednesday at 10 a.m. And then I just want to share our resources page here where we have links to our Medicaid sustainability webpage, and then our overall department, our HICPUF Medicaid sustainability webpage, which gives more information about the department-wide sustainability initiatives that are happening, not just those in long-term care. And then at the bottom, we also have our legislative resources update, which is a great place to go as well for any additional information. So we will put those, we'll share this PowerPoint on our website, and those links will be available in the chat and on this PowerPoint. And as always, we have all of our CFC resources as well on our website. So again, any questions that you have for CFC specifically, please don't hesitate to reach out to us via email at hicpuff_cfc@state.co.us. Thank you so much again. And we look forward to seeing you all in October. So hope you have a great rest of your summer, and we'll see you in the fall. Thanks again.